Today on Monkey Life, slow loris Bruce is back under the knife. But the cause of his problem is still a mystery.
It doesn't feel like an abscess about to burst.
Time apart for adolescent orangutans Silvestre and Jin, after too much rough and tumble.
They don't want to be best friends. Their game is starting getting rough.
Plus, the team's attempt to get the woollies to work for their breakfast bears fruit. Monkey World in Dorset, buried deep in the English countryside, is the largest sanctuary of its kind on the planet. The team, led by Dr. Alison Cronin, rescue and rehabilitate abused and unwanted primates from all over the world.
Hello, Pipsqueak. Hello, Mimi.
The park provides a home for more than 260 monkeys and apes from 24 different species. Wildlife vet John Lewis has been called in to take another look at Bruce, one of the park's 2 male Bengal slow loris. Over the last 12 months, he's had a large lump on the side of his face. And despite 2 thorough examinations, multiple tests and medication, the team are no nearer to finding out what it is. Following treatment, it appeared to shrink, but in the last few weeks, they've noticed it's grown again. So John's back for a 3rd look.
This time it's about 4 times the size. So we're having him anaesthetised again. Only this time they'll probably take a tissue biopsy if it's not obvious what it is straight away.
But first, they've got to catch him.
He's not moving anywhere.
Jeremy and John head into the loris complex to lend a hand. Bruce gives Jeremy the runaround. They may be named slow loris, but when they want to, they can get a shift on. Bruce's vice-like grip on the mesh doesn't make it any easier. But eventually, Jeremy manages to unhook his hands. To minimise any additional stress, John injects him with anaesthetic, and he's taken straight into the operating room.
It's not completely out yet. I'm just hanging on to the head.
Once John is satisfied Bruce is fully under, he can get to work. Loris fur is so dense, John needs to shave some away to get a clear look at the true size and texture of the lump.
Is it soft?
Well, it's not hard like an abscess, although, you know, it doesn't feel like an abscess about to burst.
It's obvious the lump has grown in size.
It's bigger than it was last time I saw it, but really, we're guessing. So I need to take a core biopsy, a bit like using an apple corer. Take a little section, have a look at the histology, see what tissue it is. It could be salivary gland, it could be a lymph node, but we'll see.
The sample will be sent to a laboratory, where hopefully they'll be able to identify what it is and assess why it's appeared.
So we'll need a scalpel handle, tiny blade, bit of hip scrub.
Once they have the result, the team will be able to treat Bruce accordingly.
And can we have the operating light on?
John makes a small incision in the middle of the lump.
This is actually very tough skin, so you can't get through that with an eye kit, but there is.
Loris are a bit of an enigma, and their anatomy is very complicated. Very little is known about them. It makes treating Bruce even more challenging.
Very, very difficult to grab tissue.
Taking a core biopsy isn't easy.
It's very difficult to get hold of anything. And the real difficulty is grabbing. Right, I just don't want to lose that tissue. Yes. Well, we've got some tissue. Give that a good shake up, would you, Stacey? Clearly, when you cut into it, you get blood, but also we get a more clear liquid, which suggests it might be a cyst of some sort. And I've got some tissue now to look at microscopically to see whether that tells us the tissue of origin of any cyst. It hasn't gone down that much, actually. It just looks a bit smaller. And we've taken a minuscule amount of tissue out of it. And you're going to ask me what it is. I don't know until we've seen the histology. I really don't.
Blood samples are also taken for DNA analysis. The small incision doesn't require stitches and will heal quickly. John has done all he can.
He's just going to come round at his own time now.
Hopefully the team will have some answers soon. It's a glorious day at the park, and over at Malagasy the lemurs are making the most of the warm sunshine. This happy and contented troop is made up of 11 individuals, led by the dominant female, Fennel. They love nothing better than a spot of sunbathing combined with one-on-one grooming sessions. Especially while waiting for breakfast to arrive. Today, primate carekeeper Freya is putting out a healthy, low-calorie meal, protein-packed butter beans. She's filled the feeders, which she hangs all around the leafy enclosure. Her task is made a little more challenging by Kaya, who can't wait to tuck in. Freya adds some lettuce as well, to add to the variety of this morning's feed.
The reason we kind of hang up the enrichment and things like that is we don't want them just to have their food on the floor. We want them to have to forage a bit more, climb up the trees, go in some of the tubes we've got here. We don't want it just to be handed to them. We want them to work a bit harder for it. Keep them enriched, keep them engaged.
The lemurs are up to the challenge. Friedrich shows amazing balance and agility on the swinging rope as he tackles one of the feeders. The suspended tubes make the lemurs work their core while hanging on and keep both their bodies and brains active. The feeder's conical shape is perfect for a lemur muzzle. They're able to get in and reach the food using their long tongues. But you need to keep hold of it too. The newest member of the group, Al, who arrived just over 2 years ago, is making the most of the lettuce on offer. His tail was broken during his days in the pet trade, but it doesn't stop him attacking the suspended feeder as well. One member of the group who's a little quiet today is elderly White Spot, now 23 years old. He's developed an abscess on his muzzle, and the team are pretty sure he has an issue with one of his teeth, probably a canine. He's on antibiotics, but is due for a visit by the vet in the next few days if it doesn't get better. And White Spot isn't the only one under extra scrutiny from the care team. Houdini is currently on cage rest and being kept company by Fennel. He's the oldest member of the group and has been struggling with the use of one of his arms recently. Until the team can get to the bottom of it, they're limiting the amount of exercise he has. But the rest of the group are all fit and healthy and enjoying today's enrichment. Although it's been thirsty work. Over at the Capuchin Lodge, the fabulous tree-filled enclosure is getting a bit of TLC. The team are hard at work putting up new pulley feeders, as well as refurbishing some of the hoses and ladders for the 14 individuals who make up the group.
It's so amazing for them. We've got quite a few wild caught animals in this group, and they really use the trees. They go right to the top, and it's really nice to see. But we want to try and keep it wild for them, but at the same time, we need to be able to spread the food around for everybody and just make it nice. So the main thing that we're doing today is putting some pulley feeders up for them at various different levels to get them using the height a bit more, especially the lab-born ones like Erico and Sean that at the moment don't really have a reason to climb. Hopefully we'll get them a bit more active as well, getting them using some different muscles, which is really great. And naturally in the world, they feed up in the trees. It's not natural for them to get as much of their food source from on the ground. So that's our main aim today, and just to give it a bit of a revamp, really.
There's a large age range within the group. Some are still in their teens, while a few are in their 30s.
Those older animals are the wild-caught ones, so they're the ones that want to go up, but obviously their mobility is struggling a little bit as well and deteriorating, so we need to get them up high, but do that in a safe way, and so they can move up and down really nicely as well. And the younger guys that just don't really use the trees as much, we need to make it so that they also can get up and make it easy for them and just get them moving a little bit more than they do at the moment.
Primate carekeeper Toby is filling the feeders with pieces of fresh-cut melon, a particular favourite with this group of capuchins. First to be let out are Caesar and Phoebe. They were rescued together from the pet trade in 2008 and are still good friends. Because the pair are low rankers in the group, they're given a head start over the more dominant individuals. Caesar makes the most of it. The rest of the group are led out by dominant male Erico. He wastes no time shimmying up the thin rope to one of the new feeders, showing amazing strength and agility to reach in for the pieces of melon. As he devours his breakfast, Becky finds hers. She uses her tail as an anchor to quickly grab some juicy fruit before Erico muscles in. Some of the older individuals are also having success this morning. Binti is in her mid-30s, but defies her age heading for one of the higher feeders. It's very tricky to reach, but she takes her time, carefully lowering herself down onto the feeder. This old girl has plenty of grit and determination.
So definitely some of them do climb more than others. It's really high, so some of them, if they're not used to climbing, they just don't really have the head for heights and they don't have the confidence to be able to do that. So the two that we see at the tops of the trees the most is Scarlet and Ringo, which are two of the wild caught animals. And you see them right at the tops of the trees in the really flimsy branches. Obviously they catch the sun. Also, because they're a bit older, they're sort of towards the bottom of the hierarchy, so for them it's an opportunity to get away from the other individuals. And also there's loads of bugs and insects and things up there as well, which they really enjoy more than the younger animals do.
The aim of revamping the enclosure was to keep this mixed-age capuchin group interested and mobile. And if this morning is anything to go by, it's going to work well. But while Erico wants to concentrate on the food, Becky's concentrating on him. She follows him round like a love-struck teenager, flirting and doing her best to grab his attention, although her technique fails to impress Erico. Eventually, her persistence pays off, and Erico succumbs, allowing Becky to give him a one-on-one grooming session. It's a tough life being the top man. Summer has arrived at the park, and at the orangutan nursery enclosure, the youngsters are making the most of the warmer weather. They're outside scouting for breakfast, which has been hidden in some of the feeders to encourage the group to climb. Even the normally sedate Oshin is off the ground hunting for food. Bulu and Rika may be growing up, but they're still incredibly close. But these days, Bulu also likes interacting with the big boys. whereas Rika is quite content to amuse herself. Jin is having great fun showing off how strong and athletic he is. At 9 years old, he's outgrowing the nursery physically, if not mentally. But one member of the nursery is absent today. Jin's pal Silvestre is licking his wounds. A couple of weeks ago, one of their rough and tumble sessions went a bit too far. And the inevitable happened, leaving Silvestre with some nasty cuts and Jin with some scratches. Both boys are adolescents and are starting to develop the characteristics that will mark them out as adult males. At some stage, it was inevitable that they would come to blows.
Silvestre getting big and Jin getting big, they don't want to be best friends. They just want to find respect or comparing each other. And they are quite competitive each other as well. So Silvestre thinks that he is stronger than Jin, and Jin thinks he is stronger than Silvestre. So that is normal behavior for male orangutan.
In the wild, adult males don't tolerate other males in competition for their territory and spend most of their life alone. With Jin and Silvestre bulking up and their sharp adult canines developing, the team have taken the decision to keep them apart in case things turn nasty. They'll take it in turns to have access to the outside enclosure. Today, it's Jin who's enjoying the sunshine, while Silvestre stays indoors. To keep him busy and occupied, Jarno has planned a training session with him in the outside tunnels, away from the others.
Hey, handsome man. Look at your teeth, it's so big now.
These sessions are incredibly beneficial, enabling staff to teach and reinforce behaviours
Goodbye.
which may be needed for real in the future. It also helps Jarno take a good look at those dangerous new teeth.
Open. Look at that. Canine for orangutan is kind of weapon, really. They just use it to shredding thing, and including use it for fighting. That's what he did. Same thing as well with Jin as well. Them two, they got their canine now. So their game is starting getting rough.
Jin and Silvestre now need to be found new homes so they can head up groups of their own. But it isn't easy because they can't live with other adult males. Until then, it's the job of the care team to make sure they enjoy life.
They do need lots of attention and stimulation, I think. As a keeper is basically their best enrichment ever. So spending time with them and even if talking to them, they're really, really happy as well. And giving them something just rewarding for them and yeah, make their days go better.
The park's maintenance team are having a late summer tidy up. And it's Lavar's troop of woolly monkeys who'll benefit today. An apple tree at Hananya's chimp house has been trimmed back. The cut boughs, laden with juicy fruit, are being suspended high up in the trees of Lavar's forest enclosure. The aim today is to encourage the woollies to use their muscles and coordination to climb up and forage for the fruit, mimicking the behaviour of their wild counterparts.
They are suspension feeders. They spend most of their time really high up in the canopy, so having the apple still attached to the branch is just completely mimicking wild foraging behaviour. So normally we would actually chop up their food quite small, distribute it around, but this is just a nice treat for them. They wouldn't normally have this amount of food in one feed. We do have to control how much fruit intake they have, so this is just like a sort of one-off treat is really, really nice for them, just to encourage them to just behave like wild woolly monkeys.
Lavar's son Manny is first out, and immediately spots the apple browse. But he's conspicuously quiet. Either he's not excited, or he's trying to keep the surprise all to himself. But the rest of the group soon realise what's on offer. And there's lots of happy trilling as they start to tuck in. First-time mum Eva makes it look all too easy, balancing on the high rope while devouring the fruit. The apple of her eye, son Lemmy, also joins in the fun. He manages to grab one, but takes one bite before deciding it's not ripe enough for him, and heads up high in search of richer pickings. The apple never falls far from the tree, which is just as well for Cosmo, who takes the easy option, finding fruit on the ground. He's back to his usual self, following treatment for seizures and loving the group enrichment. The team have put up plenty of browse, so there's lots to go round.
This forest enclosure is just perfect for our woolly monkeys. They are arboreal. We do always try to encourage them to sort of come up and feed higher up. Woolly monkeys have got their prehensile tails, and in the wild they actually use that quite a lot to aid them when they're feeding. So they'll wrap their tails around branching, unlike the ropes we have here, and then they suspend their body down to be able to access lots of food. So we're always trying to find new ideas of how we can encourage the woolly monkeys to use those tails and just to act like sort of what they would in the wild.
In the forests of South America, woolly monkeys can live in groups of up to 60. They often travel 1 kilometre a day searching for food. This isn't necessary in captivity, but the care team do their best to encourage natural behaviour from all the troop. It's been a very productive and fruitful session. And as they say, an apple a day keeps the vet away. Next time on Monkey Life, a trip to the hospital for injured lemur Houdini.
There's quite an obvious fracture through the radius there.
And cookie cottons on quick when breakfast arrives all tied up.